Everton, we're all laughing at you. That's especially for John. You found that, didn't you, John? Where did you find
Yeah,
it?
somebody put it up, and it wasn't that long after the game, so it made me think of all those years and years and years ago when a new song came out within seconds of a game or an incident or whatever it was, and yeah, that was it. I thought it was whoever came up with that is brilliant. But of course, it's I think it's the old "Singing the Blues" song, isn't it? Never and quite apt. So
Yeah.
I just excellent stuff, and whoever did it, take a bow.
And George Sephton, the voice of Anfield for 54 years, was it?
Or 54.
54 years.
Yeah.
Would you confirm that was the tune, Singing the Blues?
I mean, whatever they've been drinking, it could have been any tune, to be quite honest. But I'll take your word for that.
It wouldn't matter. Good evening. I'm Graham Mack. I'm here with John Pearman and George Sephton, the voice of Anfield, for the latest episode of Red All Over YouTube, which is the YouTube version of Red All Over the Land, the Liverpool fanzine, the longest lasting and the only surviving Liverpool fanzine. 30 years. He was the creator of it. He's still the editor. John Pearman, a proper good evening to you.
Good evening.
And George Sephton, 54 years. Did you know that? I had that tip of my mental fingertips there. 54 years as the ground announcer, the voice of Anfield. Good evening, George.
Hi, Graham. Hi, John.
Hi,
So,
George.
This was your first season away, really, wasn't it?
Yes, it was very strange. So, no, it's not finished yet, but it's been weird. All told, I mean, two things you have to remember. A, I've had to get used to going to the match in about 5 layers of wool, to keep me warm, having had a nice little room for all those years. And I had a bit of a false start, as you know. I got to the Bournemouth game, the first match of the season. Then the next game, I was carted off to Aintree Hospital, cardiac unit, had a pacemaker fitted, and then had I think I missed 3 games, but I've been at Anfield ever since, every game, and it's quite an experience. I'm settling in. I mean, the people around me, most of them knew who I was when I arrived. Few of them were looking at me saying things like, "What are you doing down here?" And then there were a few who didn't know who I was and got very confused when people like John Barnes and Steve McManaman stopped to talk to me and greeted me warmly. And Robbie Fowler, that was the other one. And I just let them wonder. They're looking at me thinking, this guy must be somebody. And they're not quite sure. And then eventually they twig. And the
They
other
didn't
thing,
recognise the voice, George.
they reckon. Well, most of them recognised as soon as I opened their mouth. Well, there's a lot of them still didn't, which was quite strange. And I know it's a common thing nowadays. I was in the opticians last week in Boots in Liverpool, and a guy at the next desk having his eyes tested, he stopped and he came over as soon as I started talking. Excuse me, it's George, isn't it? Can I have a selfie? And the poor girl doing my eye test was looking at him, looking at me, thinking, what on earth is this all about? But, I just love it. Big ham. I've said to a few people that when the last season came to a close, I did a couple of voiceovers. I did the voiceover for the advert for the new Adidas kit last autumn. And as you might have seen it the last Tuesday, did the voiceover for Amazon Prime TV. That was good. But somebody said to me, you should call yourself the voiceover of Anfield. And I said, no, I prefer to be known as the artist formerly known as the voice of Anfield. I think I put that on my letterhead. Yeah.
I interrupted you earlier, George. After you spoke, you said Robbie Fowler had mentioned you. You were going to say something else. What was it?
I was just going to rattle off a list of people I've bumped into who know. You mean there was an era where the guys in the squad knew me and got on. We got on, talked to each other, and socialised and whatever. I mean, this current squad, um, I don't think any of them, if they walked in now, know who the hell I was, which is very sad. Um, but I'm used to it now. On the somebody said to me a while ago, you're part of the furniture, and I said, yeah. I'm not quite sure which part of the furniture I am. I think you sit on it, but there you go.
Well, you've got to admit, everyone has to admit that Liverpool
Mm.
haven't played as well since you've stopped being the voice of Anfield. And people are
Yes,
going like,
yes,
what's going on? We've got so many the same players. We've got the same manager that won us the title. What's changed? And isn't it staring us in the face, George?
that's right. Yeah, it is. I've noticed that, and I thought, no, that's just silly. But so many people have said the same thing. Yeah, but they say the atmosphere has changed. It might well have done because obviously me being out in the open air in the atmosphere is completely new. So I don't know whether it's better or worse than when I was playing the music and whatever. But I think people are feeling slightly out of their comfort zone because for years, even if they didn't listen to a blind word I said, they knew I was there and it was part of the people said it was part of the experience. And I think it's just familiarity. And now that that funny voice in the background's gone, they're probably feeling just a bit iffy.
It's
But
more than a
I don't
funny
know. I think
voice. Through the Anfield PA
well,
system, it was a womb trembler, George.
yeah, that's true. The but I don't know. It's I think this season. I said to somebody yesterday. I think this season died on July the 3rd last year when Diogo got killed in the crash.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been weird. I mean, two things. That was one big thing, obviously. Then we spent zillions of pounds on the superstar centre forward who promptly hurt himself and hasn't played for most of the season. Ditto this new brilliant centre back, the Italian lad who's probably you won't see till next season. And Conor Bradley, oh, he disappeared as well. I did, and at the same time, poor Mo, I think he's just hit the brick wall. He probably hit it, the three-quarters of the way through last year. And watch him now. People say it's a good time for him to go. No, last summer would have been a good time by the looks of things, and he's just missing that cutting edge. I mean, he scored a brilliant goal last Sunday, but he's missed a few things. I know obviously where I sit, I can watch him from quite close on now. I just watch him some things he does. He's just suddenly half a yard short. And all these things together, I think it's contributed to what's happened. If we get through the summer, have a good pre-season, none of our stars get crocked in the World Cup, and everything falls into place. We've got the squad to do really, really well, next season, 26, 27. So it's just fingers crossed now.
John, what do you think the atmosphere has been like lately without George?
Well, I actually think it's been pretty poor. As I say, I think the club have got to take some responsibility because they the football it's a two-way thing. We should all have the football, and the football motivates the crowd. The crowd motivate the players. But that's not happening. I mean, you're talking about Mo. I've watched Mo as well, and I'm thinking 2 years ago, Kate was only 31 then, but a ball had come from Trent and Mo had gone, and that ball was in space somewhere, and Mo was getting there. Now Mo's waiting for the ball to come, or whoever's there waiting for the ball to come, and it's being passed around the midfield, back across the park
Sideways
again,
and backwards. Yeah.
and then it goes to Mo. And by the time it goes to Mo, there's 4 or 5 defenders around him. That's
Yeah.
not giving him an excuse for some poor games, but yeah, you know, if you apart from Sobo, it's very, very difficult this season to say who's actually been outstanding. Yep.
Yeah. George, you mentioned doing voiceover, and you did voiceover for Amazon Prime. Is that the thing we saw just before the game, the PSG game?
That's the one. That was quite good. That
How did
the
that come about? Did they come to you?
well, and it came to me out of the blue, and I was so pleased. Not, I mean, obviously, I was pleased to get the work. Um, Booking now for Panto. Anybody's listening? Um, but it was nice that somebody as big as Amazon Prime wanted to connect me with what was going on and the history and whatever. That was quite fun, except I very nearly got pneumonia filming the damn thing.
Because they had you in the
Last
ground, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it was in the Anfield Road end the Thursday before the big game, and it was freezing cold and rainy and all sorts. But we did it, and the only part was that I didn't see it obviously live because I was in the ground when it was being broadcast. And on the way out on Tuesday night, I bumped into Gabby Logan. I've never actually met the girl before. I've spoken to her once on the radio, but um, if I didn't know at that point that she and I were in the same clip together, because if I'd known, I would have collared her. Although on reflection, it probably wouldn't have been good because I was a bedraggled wreck by then. I just wanted to go home and drip dry. But no, that was I was very pleased with the outcome of that.
And John, have you noticed, because you go to pretty much every game at Anfield, whether, because for me, part of the matchday experience was John's voice, but also songs like Heart as Big as Liverpool, which you used to play very early on, George. Are things
Yeah.
like that still being played now that you're not picking the music?
It's very odd because at the start of the season they were playing quite a lot of house music, and now the last 2 or 3 games have suddenly started playing the stuff that I was told was old rubbish and I shouldn't play anymore. Now I can only assume, I don't know, that people have been getting on to somebody at the club and saying, "Oi, what's going on?" And I still get local bands emailing me. I've got this new track out, and I'm saying, "Sorry, can't help." Nobody seems to be taking those things in. I was told there would be a specific contact point at the club for new bands to send the material in. It just doesn't seem to be happening, which is very sad because obviously one of the things over the years was that the fact that new local being Merseyside mostly, would get their music played to 60,000 people, gave them a hell of a boost. I know I speak to so many people who've been in bands, who are in bands, who started off in bands,
I think
who are
Ian
now
Prowse
doing.
mentioned it on a podcast, didn't he? The one with
That's
Mick
right.
Ord. Yeah.
That's right. Him and I
Mick
did a
Ord.
podcast with Mick and Ian. That was quite fun too. But no, I mean Ian, the classic case, because obviously a couple of his tunes were uh, part and parcel of what I played an awful lot of. But as you say, Pete Wiley, um, Heart as Big as Liverpool. I was actually I'm in the video for that, which is that's a long time ago. You've got all those you blink and you miss me, but I spent one happy Sunday a few years ago in Wallasey Town Hall filming the video. And something else I never thought I'd do in my life, being in a rock video. But Heart as Big as Liverpool is regarded now as second only to You Never Walk Alone. as a Liverpool anthem. It's I just wish I had the power to press that into people's consciousness there, because there's so many people coming now who really, really need to be taken on one side and educated about what it means to be at Anfield. And it's aggravating. One of these days I'll be I'll be dragged away screaming and kicking and screaming somewhere, and put somewhere secure. And when I'll just explode one day when I'm in the crowd.
John, what's your verdict on the music since George went?
Well, I just going back to Heart as Big as Liverpool. I've said now for over 20 years that should be the second anthem. They should be playing that when the team comes out at half time.
Yeah.
Just the chorus. No, I mean, was it an 8-minute song? So you don't need that, but just the chorus. But no, and I just don't think there's anything going on anymore. It's just poor. But that, as I say, I'm not going to blame Peter McDowell, who now does I think he's doing the music as well. But he's not. He's more a football man, let's say that, than a music man. And you need somebody doing that who's a music man. You can't. You need somebody who understands the local music scene. So they could have got anybody from local radio or wherever to come and do that, but they didn't, and that's a shame. But it's just another way of Liverpool sort of killing what we made, destroying what was there, and that's the saddest thing about it.
Yeah. Well, George, as well as being the voice of Anfield for 54 years, you're also a best-selling author, and your first book, which was called The Voice of Anfield, fabulous read, also an audio book narrated by George. Who else? Talk about a match made in heaven, to have the Voice of Anfield read the book called The Voice of Anfield. It's great. You've been working on another one. How's that going?
It's going very well. We've it just been put back slightly because I finished the manuscript about the end of November, passed it over to my agent, and we had a chat. The first thing, I got Jurgen to write the foreword, which I'm really pleased about.
Because Kenny wrote the foreword for the other one to have. That's pretty good company to keep. Yeah.
But I said to my wife when Jurgen emailed through what he'd written, I said, forget the rest of the book. We'll just publish this. And I can't follow that.
What did he say? What did he say in there?
I can't tell you that.
No, you'll have to buy the book to find out.
Okay.
Sorry.
And what's this one about? Because the other one was about the first 50 years. Does the new one take up from there?
Well, it just follows on. The idea was that it'd go up to the day I left. And I do say in the prefix that the first book covered 5 decades. This one covers half a decade. But thanks to people like Jurgen, Norwood, Klopp, there's an awful lot of tales to fill it out. I'm quite pleased with the result. But as I say, we were looking for a cut-off point. And when I got to the end of November, there was no natural cut-off point. Then we thought that Mo wasn't going to come back from Africa Cup of Nations. Well, that's a good point. Then we thought, no, the end of the year, then maybe my 80th birthday. But then we plumped for the end of this season. So obviously you only got another, 5-6 weeks to go. So I'm just tagging bits on the end, and hopefully that'll get into the editors and publishers by the end of May, and then we'll get the show on the road.
So it should be out in time for next season?
Well, it should be. No, they don't move that quick. I'll be really pleased if it came out before Christmas 27.
Right.
I'll be quite, if I survive till Christmas 27, that'd be a nice little present for me as well. But I'm quite pleased with the outcome. I'll say, obviously, there's been so many things that have happened to me since I left. Um, as I say, that I think I've told you in private. There was one point when I was in Aintree Hospital at the end of August last year. My heart actually stopped, and they wheeled me into another ward where they had the defibrillator, and they didn't need it, but obviously I've had a I'm on my extension now. I've got a new lease of life in every sense of the word, so I'm making the most of it.
So you're in time added on, which you used to announce.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the funny thing. I know. I must tell you a funny story because the 6 weeks after the pacemaker was fitted, my wife and I went to Aintree to a follow-up visit, and I said they examined me, everything's great, fine. I said that's lovely. Just one thing: what happens when the battery runs out? How on earth do you change the battery? And the nurse looked at me deadpan. She said, "Mr. Sephton, that battery has 14 years life in it." And I thought, well, that's me told, isn't it? So I'm planning that out accordingly. I'll, I
Yeah.
will be a gibbering wreck in 14 years. I can tell you that for nothing.
Are you up to anything else, George? Because I know you've hosted events here and there. Have you got anything coming up?
I've done a couple. I've got I've done a few podcasts. I say there was a Russia podcast just after I left. Recently, I did one with Mick Miller for a company called Who Dares Grins. I'm doing something at the Epstein Theatre with David Fairclough on May Day Bank Holiday. I'm doing something this week for Red Men TV, narrating documentary they're making. Obviously, it'd be very nice if Amazon Prime TV thought it was so nice to have to get me back again. Done stupid things like I auditioned for Countdown. That felt actually. I've just missed the date when they say if you don't hear from us by then, you're not here.
Okay.
And then these people who did the podcast with Mick Miller have got me up in Leyland at the end of June. It was supposed to be an evening with George Sephton. It's now a Sunday afternoon with George Sephton, so could be interesting. And after that, I'm open to offers. Just taking each day as it comes, as they say. But I'm
Where can
trying
we
to. It's
find
very
out
hard.
more? Have you got a
I
website or
shall.
anything?
I haven't got a website. Who Dares Wins have got a
Okay.
website. Um, and when I've got the exact dates, times, ticket sales, and whatever, I shall tell you, and you can maybe put it in the fanzine or on the next YouTube.
We'll definitely put it on the YouTube. What about the fanzine, John? We'll get it in there.
Yeah.
Well, they've only got one more this season, so
Of course, yeah.
but if I got it in by the end of tomorrow, it'd be in there. But
Don't worry about it.
All right.
But no, I mean the thing is, we're going to do one last YouTube on the 26th, isn't it, Graham?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days after the season finishes, which would be a bit weird because last bank holiday Monday we were all down on the parade. Down on the Strand watching the parade, getting soaked.
Yes, I remember it well.
Which became a familiar feeling during the year, getting soaked outside Anfield. And so times have changed. Yeah, this year I think everybody now just wants the season to finish. And I will say this: when that goal went in on Sunday afternoon in the 100th minute, I don't exactly know what time it was, but I called an amnesty on criticising the manager, the team, anybody. That is until Saturday. So,
right. Okay, that's when it runs out. Time's up.
We'll be back to normal then. But
yeah.
when you think if you want to talk football, it's like when Andy Carroll scored that goal at Wembley for Liverpool in I think the about the last minute there. People say what a waste of money Andy Carroll was. I said anybody who scores the winner at that time in the derby, they're up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So that goal was worth 33 million just to see David Moyes' face on the touchline at the time. Yeah. So and you know, he was true to form on Sunday. Was Moisey. Um, you, you know, even when he left Everton, you can take the man out of goodness, but you can't take the bitter out of the man. And you know, he's not changed, has he? I watched his interview on Everton television, and it was it was funny just to see him. Oh yes, we're going to do this. We were the better team, and all the rest of it, and they should have had a penalty, and everything else that went against them. The referee was wrong. I mean, they've been blaming referees now since Clive Thomas back in the 70s, 77, and or was it no before that? Wasn't it 71? So yeah, we get used to it. We get used to it.
Well, we'll talk more about football and the derby in particular in a bit, but if you're watching this live on YouTube, you can comment. There are comments, and we've had one from RS Clag. Have I said that? RS Clag 96? You know John, do you, John? He says, good to see and listen to you, George. My first season as a Cop season ticket holder was the same time you made your debut, along with Kevin Keegan. Miss your eclectic choice of music. All the best. So there you go.
Checks in the post, tell him. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just if you are watching live on YouTube, you can give us a comment if there's anything that you want to talk about. We are going to. Sorry, George, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, while we're on the subject, I saw a picture yesterday on the internet of a guy who makes his living selling football memorabilia, and he'd just been to Kevin's house for a signing.
Oh yeah.
How is Kevin?
I don't know if you saw it. He was looking very well. I mean, I think the official story is he's on the mend. He's being treated. He's not as at death's door like some idiots on social media have been saying. And you know, he looked good in this picture. He looked like Kevin as we remember him. So that was good to see, because obviously I have a tenuous connection with Kevin, having started at Anfield the same day he did. And I was horrified when I heard all the stories about him being in such a bad state. But he looked good yesterday.
Because he
Sorry,
was.
you carry on.
When we had Kevin as a special guest at the Red All Over the Land fans night at Hotel Anfield, Kevin was great, wasn't he? Not just on stage, but off as well. I mean, he just would not go home until everybody had everything signed, and even at the very end, he hung around for quite a while. He was brilliant, wasn't he, John?
It was absolutely superb. And the first thing you have to say is, what a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Above anything else. All his achievements, you know, but above that, he's just a nice bloke.
Yeah. And he's been manager of Newcastle, Fulham, Carlisle, and a
England.
few other clubs. He's done the rounds. And I just thought it was a funny guy. And that was it. But let's hope that he is on the mend and everything's going good for him, because it's such to have him out there as one of our players. It's special. Yes, still means a lot to a lot of fans. And you've just showed your number 7 shirt.
Yeah. So let's talk about the derby then. Can I start with the fans, John? Because as the publisher of the longest lasting, only surviving fanzine, you are the expert on fans. What did you make of the Everton fans?
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't really say too much. But I didn't like what I saw at the beginning. An Everton fan has said it's the same when they come to Anfield. Well, I've not actually seen any of that, but it did look pretty hostile. But this is what Everton have got this thing now. They build the derby up into something incredible, which it is. It's the biggest game of the season. You know, for us, it's far bigger game than Manchester United or now Manchester City or anything like that, because this is a genuine local derby. It's two teams from the same city, you know, and up until a few months ago, we were separated by a walk through the park. It's sad if that was going on, because Everton as a club have done a lot with Liverpool on Hillsborough. So it's sad if things are happening. But yeah, social media gets involved, so you don't know really what's been going on. I'd rather prefer to think about the football and let the authorities deal with that, because I read where if any Liverpool fan was in the home ends, they'd be ejected. Well, we all know what it used to be like at Goodison in the old days, where you could go and stand anywhere, or in the latter years when it was seated, you could go and sit anywhere with them. Fans used to go on the bus, the
Side by
train,
side.
in the
Yeah.
back of a car. Yeah, on the back of a motorbike or whatever. Yeah, you'd get together. But now all that's changing, and that's sad. That's not just sad for the Merseyside derby. That's sad for football, and we
Yeah.
don't want to see that. But as I say, things are changing now, and if you can't go to football together, then the game's gone.
Yeah. Mike Hennessy has messaged. He said most aggressive EFC fans outside the ground before the game than I've seen in a long time. So yeah, it'd be a shame if, you know, what used to be the friendly derby gets to be like, you know, the other derbies, you know, particularly things like the maybe Sunderland, Newcastle. I wouldn't know which is the most aggro derby in the country, but it never used to be ours. But it would be sad if it ends up that way, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some stuff on and off the pitch. Before the game, Everton had this. They call him a tifo now. I don't even know where that word comes from. Is it Italian? I don't know what it means.
Possibly.
It's a banner, isn't it? Whatever it is. And Everton had one before the game, and I don't know if you can see it. Let me just see if I can zoom in here. George, I don't know if you've seen this, but to the left.
Yeah.
To the left and to the right of it, there's a couple of bizarre things. To the right, first of all, there's a sign that says, "We built this city." I don't know how they've worked that. Why do Everton think they built the city of Liverpool? Has anyone got any ideas what that's about?
I just obviously I see that phrase and I think of the song by Jefferson, Starship, was it?
Yeah, a pretty awful 80s song, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they obviously they've been going along. And if you look slightly further to the right, if that's what they call building this city, I'd be packing my bags and moving out. That's the famous Tower of Everton Brow, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we got obviously you've got the Beatles on the other side.
Well,
I
let me
think.
just stop you on the Beatles, because there's something interesting about this. As you can see, you've got the Fab Four there wearing scarves, and it's a blue and white. They're all wearing the same scarf. It's a blue and white scarf.
Yeah.
Now, that's a bit of, well, it's fake news, really, isn't it? It's like ancient fake news, because here's the actual picture that they used. And as you can see, it's from the movie Help. And I think this was the cover of the old VHS version of the movie Help when it first came out. And it is not a blue scarf, is it?
It certainly isn't. No, I know at least two of those guys were Reds. I don't know about Ringo. I don't think John was interested in any way, shape, or form about anything other than music.
There are more red connections than blue connections to the Beatles, as far as I can see. Because there's only,
I know,
yeah.
I've heard a story recently about Paul McCartney confessing in private that he was actually a Red. Although the only time I've ever seen him at a football match was a derby match, strangely, at Goodison Park in the late 60s.
Yeah.
And I know George Harrison, I discovered much later on, he came to Liverpool, to Anfield, to see a game when he was home for Ringo's mum's birthday. sorry, Ringo's mum's funeral. I'm going to get it right, George. And he came with this American producer he knew, and he came with wrapped up mufflers, a hat pulled down over his face. Came, watched the game, went home again, and nobody twigged to who he was. But that's I know Mike McCartney, Paul's brother, is of a red persuasion, and I don't think there's any doubt. But that picture that was up on the TIFO is taking liberties to the extreme. It's if that's what they do. Good luck to them. That's what what's make them happy. I'd rather have the 3 points
I
personally.
think the strange thing, if you're going to use a picture of the Beatles and then also use a song title, why didn't you use a Beatles song title? It just seems so random, because there's so many there that would suit them. I'm a Loser, Help, Yesterday, All My Troubles Seem So Far Away. They were spoilt for choice for picking a Beatles song, and they stayed away from them. I don't know why that was. You'd think they just keep the theme going, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm just going to make some sarcastic remark about the artist, but I won't. I'll probably get a knock on the door later on. But no, I mean, as I say, I remember a few years ago when City of Liverpool FC turned up to AFC Liverpool, and they thought they were the big cheese in the non-league scene locally, and we beat them. AFC beat them. And the following morning, I got an email from one of the guys organising the City of Liverpool FC, and he said, "I thought our fans outsang you last night." I thought, yippee, so they did. We scored more goals than you. And the last time I read the laws of the game, that was how you decided to win. But
I can remember something similar to that. It was when it wasn't to do with Liverpool and Everton or anybody, but it was like I was just getting on the train to go back to Loughborough, and Liverpool had just beaten West Ham, and there was this West Ham fan, and he got on his phone and he says, I won't repeat the language, but typical East End voice, and he said, but we outsang them Scouts. It was 3-0, 3-1 or something like that. But he was so happy that they'd outsang us. They hadn't, but I thought, I'll let him go.
But it is strange because for them to pick the Beatles when, I think pretty much the Beatles didn't really talk about it that often about football, but there's only one footballer on the cover of Sgt. Pepper, and it's a Liverpool player. Is it Billy Little?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Albert
Stubbins. Albert Stubbins it is, yeah. There's no Everton players on there. Okay.
I was told in this same conversation where Paul confessed to being a Red that one of the first things Brian Epstein told them was don't talk about football on the ground. You'll alienate half of the local crowd. And it sounds odd, but he was absolutely strict about that, and that's why none of them would ever own up until it was, it didn't matter anymore. But they belonged to one camp or the other.
Funny you should say that, George, because the Beatles must have done thousands of interviews and press conferences over the years, and I can only find one where they mention football, and I'm going to play it for you now. It's only short. It's 1964. It's February the 22nd. They've just arrived back at Heathrow Airport from their first trip to America, where they appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show and did their first concert in Washington. And it coincides with Grandstand being on BBC One. So they sent David Coleman along to cover the arrival of the Beatles back at Heathrow Airport, as if it was a sporting event. And afterwards, he did quickly interview them. And at the end of the interview, he did mention football. And this is what the Beatles themselves said.
And what price Liverpool for the cup then?
Oh, they definitely got it. They're in the semi.
Oh, did you?
We don't, I've been away, you see. I've been to America.
They really don't tell you anything, do they?
Don't,
We don't tell them a
Keep
thing.
me in the dark.
Actually, I didn't hear about that.
Are you going to be there?
What are they doing? What are
Where are we
they
going?
winning? They're winning.
Who's winning?
Hooray.
Good old Liverpool.
Of course, four boys can't be brought up on Merseyside without being either
Look, I've been to
Liverpool or
one match in my life.
Are you all Liverpool
Well,
supporters?
we support whoever's winning
Winning,
at the
yeah.
time, you know.
Good old Arsenal.
That's him finished.
So that may be the one time they would have got into trouble with Epstein, George Epstein.
Absolutely.
Brian Epstein, yeah.
So Paul did say we support whoever's winning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was normally the Beatles, wasn't it? So,
Yeah. So I think Everton had a cheek claiming the Beatles.
Paul McCartney did go to the 1966 FA Cup final when Everton beat Sheffield Wednesday. He was at that game.
Right. I think he was at one of the, was it the 86 final, the Liverpool-Everton final? I think he was at that one.
I don't know about that. He may have been, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
friends with his son-in-law, Mary's husband, and I know I got him tickets for Anfield in the good old days when I could. And they've got two young lads, and I got tickets for all three of them to come to a game. And I said to Mary's husband, I said, asked the lads anything you want me to play, particularly at half time? And I got a message straight back, anything by Grandad. I thought, isn't that wonderful?
That is great.
That left you a choice then, George.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I was quite happy. I would have done something like that anyway. I know. One of my remaining ambitions is to speak to Paul McCartney. Maybe I will do one of these days. I'll go and kidnap him.
All right. Well, let's get back to the derby then. How about the game itself, John?
Well, like I said earlier, it's what happened in the final minute that matters to me now. We didn't play brilliant, but neither did Everton. Did we deserve to win? Well, the score was 2-1. We had the more chances. We were probably the better side, just. So, as I say, the derby, you don't worry about. No one's going to look in the records in 10 years' time and say, "Oh, look, 2-1," but Liverpool were lucky, or anything like that. Or what sort of a game was that? You know, we can all go back and think back to games that we've watched at Anfield against Everton, and we've won them. Some have been good, some have not been so good, but we've won. So what does it matter? You know, it's the derby. The derby is all about. On Sunday, some Liverpool could go and stand on the top of the Liver building and, like King Kong, and say, "This city is ours. Don't care who built it. This city is ours." And that's it. That's all. It's all that matters to me on the derby day. All that matters.
George?
Absolutely. I mean, I think for the first probably 15, 20 minutes, I thought we were getting slightly overrun. And then it was as if Liverpool sort of settled into the game. And we took over. We had a couple of, obviously, Mamadashvili made a couple of saves. But then you get carried off. And I did say at that point to my wife, do you think Arne Slot has run over a black cat on his way to work one day recently? Because, you think we're down to our third choice goalie, and actually Woodman did a good job. If he's playing next Saturday, I won't be too worried. But we got into, and we had a couple of good chances, and if we'd taken them, it would have been a murder. Although as I said, you're right. It was a good old-fashioned derby, head to head. And it's one of those, when the dust settled, it's great, and it's one of those games where it's wonderful to watch later on Match of the Day when you know what's happened. You're not
Oh,
you're not
you
sweaty
you
coffee.
you were there, George. But it's like I can remember us playing Everton almost like the end of the season, and the Anfield pitch was pretty bare. It wasn't in good condition. Ronnie Rosenthal scored really late on, and we all went home happy. It had been possibly one of the
Yeah,
worst games you could watch, but we all went
yeah.
home happy. Yeah, we were no great shakes. Everton were not. And I can always remember in the build up to the game, the Echo had run something. These two teams used to meet at Wembley, meaning that we'd gone down. And yeah, but it was an awful game. But no one questions that now. They all look at the book. And I've seen it on you on Twitter. People showing Ronnie Rosenthal scoring the winner. So
Mm.
end of the
Yeah,
day, it's all that matters.
it's all that matters
And
as a result. Yeah.
as that song says, up pop the head of Virgil van Dijk. It's all you want.
Yeah, yeah. Now, will this help Slot? Because some people do think that he's lost the fans, which is worse than losing the dressing room, isn't it, at Anfield?
It's hard.
Yeah, I've been an awful lot in the social media lately. I've seen something today, which allegedly comes from FSG to say that they're very happy with him and all the rest of it. Um,
Well, it definitely means he's
just
going, doesn't it? I mean,
eh?
I don't know. I mean, how many times have we heard that from clubs, not ours, but from
Yeah.
clubs saying they're very happy with the manager, whatever, and 2 weeks later they've gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's a club. Liverpool aren't clubs; they're one in their own, and I don't think they're given to all this nonsense that some club come. I mean, you sit back at the moment, you think, thank God I don't follow Arsenal or Spurs or Palace or West Ham. I mean, there's yesterday. Sorry, well, the weekend Wolves went down, didn't they? They've been finally relegated. Yeah, it was the West Ham result last night that sent them down. When I first started watching football, Wolves were the big club.
Yeah,
And I'm old enough to remember, when Spurs won the double, they were the club everybody looked up to. And you look at them and Chelsea. I mean, I don't go monkeys about Chelsea. I'll be very grateful if they went down to the Southern Premier or something because they they've always they've always been a club who thought they were bigger than they actually are, and at the moment they're in a shambles. And they have got this wonderful new. I must admit, Liam Rosenior talks a good game, but that's about it. I really don't think he's up to managing a Premier League club, but we'll see. And as you say, I'm sure that there's no great urgency to get rid of Arne Slot. Well, on the other hand, I'm wondering what Xabi Alonso is doing at the moment. He's gone very quiet because to all intents and purposes, as far as I know, he's out of work, and I don't care what they say. He would be the perfect fit for Liverpool because he knows the history. He's almost an adopted Scouser, so who knows? I say time will tell. I I worry about the football we're playing, but again, on the balance, I say Slot goes on about the injuries we've had, and he's right. We've got an horrendous season with injuries. Although the fact we've got a bigger squad than we ever used to have means we can cope. But I'd like to see Isak, burst out of his shell and in the summer.
he
And
didn't do much on Sunday, did he?
he didn't do anything on Sunday. He just it was as if it was like all these schoolboy games where that somebody is very unpopular, the rest of the class won't pass the ball to him. It was like that. I think it was about 20 minutes in. I said to my wife, I just realised Alexander Isak's playing. hadn't noticed. He'd just been completely invisible, which is great if he suddenly pops up and bangs a goal in. But it's not so great when he doesn't pop up or do anything. But you watched him last year, and they say we spent all that money on. There's something there. It's got to come out again.
Well, I would agree.
Sorry.
I agree with you, George. The injuries have been horrific, and I actually did say to Graham a word about running over Black Cat. I said I don't know how many ladders he'd walked under in his time in Holland, but you know to lose these players, and the fans have got to realise that we spent £200 million on two strikers, and basically I think they probably played together for about an hour. And that wasn't the plan. I'm sure that wasn't the plan back in the summer. But you see, we also lost Endo, who's a good backup to come on the field, and you're winning 1-0 or 2-1, and you want to kill the game. He can do that. Conor Bradley is probably going through what Steven Gerrard went through. That's growing pains. So you know, and Frimpong's. You worry about him every time he goes down. Joe Gomez, comes on the other night. I didn't know he'd been taken off because he'd asked to come off. I thought we brought him on at half time. Why are we taking him off now? So you're getting all that. But the young lad from Italy, Leone, I saw him playing that game against Southampton, and he went down after about 75 minutes, and. He's gone for the season. Well, he would have been a good player to have as a backup. Not the perfect because he's still young. And Arnie seems to have this thing that they can only play for about 15 minutes if they're young. But he was a good player. And we lost him. The goalkeeping situation, well, when Freddie came on Sunday, I actually thought that's it, but he pulled off a couple of saves, and the header when he come running out and headed the ball and then passed it to Robbo. That was basically that was when your pacemaker served its purpose. But the pass for Robbo, well, it was almost Alonso-like, wasn't it? It's perfect ball. Yeah. So. All of this, and also we shouldn't forget what happened last July when we lost Diogo. I mean, that kicked the club, that hurt the club so badly. It stopped a lot of things that were going on, and people don't realise that had that not happened, we don't know. We can't turn the clock back. But had that not happened, I think Liverpool would have got all their transfer dealings done long before the start of the season, because they're on the move. They're on the move.
There was definite momentum, wasn't there? Yeah.
And they stopped. They had to. The club shut down. So that was it. But on the other hand, we sold players before we should have done. We sold Kwanzaa. He still gets a regular game with Bayer Leverkusen. Before we got a replacement in. Arnie didn't like Harvey Elliott. When I say didn't like him, I'm talking football terms. So we got rid of him. Tyler Morton, who's now playing in France and doing quite well, we got shut of him. So I think
Diaz was a big miss.
Sorry?
We missed Diaz.
Diaz wanted to go.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's the thing. People should remember that. He'd already made his. He'd already commented on it before the end of last season. But so there's a lot of things happened, and but I think we should have basically took stock of things. Fans should take stock of things and say, look, what happened last July? Let's see now what we can do. Let's sort this all out.
So Slot deserves another season, John?
If you're asking me a question on watching his football, I'd say no, because his football is mind-numbing. to talk about you. One of the things the opposition want to do is silence the crowd. His football does that. That's my view. And I actually said that last year because some of the football we were playing, it just wasn't. It wasn't good, but it got Mo Salah fired on all cylinders and scoring goals. We had Diaz, so we had things working for us, and we had people on the bench we could bring on. You looked at our bench on Sunday. Who was there to bring on in an attacking sense? There's no point in bringing Chiesa on because a lot of people say he's been wrongly treated. But when he's come on, or when he's even started, you're still waiting to see something. So,
Well, we've had another comment. Someone agrees with you, John. Paul Moser. I don't know if you know Paul. He's actually said mind-numbing indeed. So he agrees with you on that. He also says in an earlier message, he says there is little better than getting read all over the land here in my mailbox in Arlington, VA, US. Is that Vermont? VA? Virginia. I'm sorry, Virginia, and apologies to everyone in Virginia, in the USA. A little late to this party. I forgot about the start time. Thanks for all you do. So from America, they're agreeing with you and also agreeing that this read all over the land. This is the only thing you need to go with the match. In fact, you shouldn't be buying the program at the match anymore because of the protests over the 3 years of keeping inflation ticket prices. Do we want to talk about that, John? We had Spirit of Shankly on. We had Paul Kahn from Spirit of Shankly on in the last show, and he told us what was going on. What are your thoughts now on the ticketing and the way the protests are going?
Well, they're not so much protests; it's action. We're stating given our chance to take some action against what's happening. But the problem for the Spirit of Shankly is that, and anybody else, but it's mainly the Spirit of Shankly. They're the biggest voice. The preaching to the converted. The people they're telling that we all know that, but Liverpool's fan base is made up, or match day even, is made up with all these people who are coming from overseas. They've paid extortionate prices to not just to get here, but for their tickets. They're not going to. They probably don't even know who the Spirit of Shankly are. They certainly don't know what Read or the Over the Land is because they don't buy it. So we're talking to the people that know. It's like you're going out and talking to the fans that want to be there every week. A lot of them now can't be. So we've got to do something. We've got to make it visible. And on Saturday, there's going to be the yellow card. And when that happens, I hope that will get support from, as I say, the local fraternity. But I don't think some of the other people won't know what it is. They won't know what we're talking about.
For anyone who's watching this and doesn't know, I think this is Spirit of Shankly are pushing this, but there are others as well helping out. There's people going to hand out yellow cards which explain what's going on with the ticketing situation and the price rises that are planned on the card. But they want, in the 13th minute against Crystal Palace on the weekend, they want everyone on the 13 minutes to hold up these yellow cards to show the owners the strength of support. I think that'll be a big deal if that works. That surely will. But if it doesn't, if it's only like patches here and there, I don't know how much notice they'll take of it. It's got to go big.
They've made their mind up, not
the owners.
To change. But I actually think that, as I said earlier, the club should be sponsoring the COP. The COP shouldn't be paying the club this extra money. The club should think that's our main selling point. The COP is the main selling point. We should be subsidising that with more flags or whatever. I don't want a tifo that's stage managed like Everton did it on Sunday, with that coming down, the singing and the fireworks and all that. That's not what I want. I want to see the real crowd. So the club should be sponsoring the Cop. I'm not saying they should knock the prices down because they're not going to do that, but they should be saying this is our selling point. You know, this is
You're
our
right, John.
brand. This
You're
is our
right,
brand.
because the business model for football has changed. Premiership football, the amount the bread and butter of the football clubs these days is the TV money, and
Yeah.
the TV love to show pictures of the Cop and the flags and the fans as they do at every ground they go to. The fans are a part of it. Now, so if you want to be really cynical, you could say in the 21st century that football now is a TV show. That's what it is.
Oh,
Now, I don't know if
definitely.
you've ever been in the studio audience of TV shows. When I was about 17, 18, because I had no money, I used to be able to get tickets to Granada TV and watch TV show and BBC Radio in Manchester as well. Being, you'd go and watch Les Dawson. Have you ever been in a TV or a radio show studio audience? I even went much later. I went to Los Angeles and was in the audience of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And when you're a member of the TV audience, you're expected to make there's an applause sign and, all the rest of it. You are part of what is being sold to the advertisers who pay for the programs. And so the tickets to TV shows are free. You don't pay anything. So for Liverpool Football Club, who are basically making money by putting on a TV show, to then charge even more for the people who are providing the atmosphere and what have you, it is wrong because the business model of football has changed.
No, I agree with you because I've seen it where you mentioned Wolverhampton. Well, they do the firework display and play Hi Ho Silver Lining before a game. Villa, they do exactly the same. And the TV cameras will home in on it. And I'm sure that's what they did on Sunday. That's what they focus on. Oh, this looks great. But when we won the league last year, the last game against, sorry, not the last game, the game against Tottenham, when we officially won the league, there were all them flags on the cup, and that's what the TV cameras were focusing on.
Yeah.
And that's what I say. The club should say, this is our product, this is our star. Let's pay. You were talking about the Beatles. A TV company wanted to boost their ratings on a Saturday night. Get the Beatles on. Yeah. Any show. Morecambe and Wise, they were even on that. Get the Beatles on, and that'll get the viewers in.
Yeah.
They
John?
have to pay the Beatles.
Yeah, and George, what about you don't work for LFC anymore. Can you comment on the ticket price rises locked in for 3 years?
It's a two-way street. Obviously, I've got to be a bit careful. I'm not paying for my seat anymore. I've got my season
Part of your
ticket for
retirement package, isn't it, from the club?
Yeah, that's right. But I can see, I understand why the Spirit of Shankly are mad, but we're living in a supply and demand world, and if all of a sudden the place was half full, the owners would have to start thinking seriously about ticket prices. But at the moment, yourself, you sit in the crowd, you stand outside, well, especially you, John, you're standing outside, and people are coming from all over the world, literally, to see Liverpool. And they're coming for the occasion and not for the football. It upsets me deeply because there's, obviously it's not a Liverpool club anymore. It's a worldwide brand. I know I was told a while ago that the words Liverpool FC are a brand, and I used to say no, we're a football club. We're not a brand. We're not Coca-Cola or Amazon, but at the moment, the guys who are running the brand or all the big corps have got the upper hand. And the next step for supporters protesting will be just to not turn up, and then they'll be cutting off their noses to spite their faces. And I really, really don't know the answer at the moment. And I mean, there's nothing you could do that if you won the 100 million on the Euro Millions, you couldn't buy the club out back here. We're talking billions now, aren't we?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is insane. I mean, we can only hope that Rupert Murdoch gets fed up with football one day and decides not to cover it, and then we'll see who's who. Well,
There'll
it's at the
be
moment.
there'll be there'll be there'll be someone to take the thing is the club are making more and more money each year out of television.
Yeah,
There's going to be more. I'm not sure if it's next season, the season after, but there's going to be more and more money pumped into football. There's going to be more and more matches shown on the TV,
yeah.
and yeah, they're calling the tune. So, but if we can affect if we can say, look. Your marketing ploy is the cop. If we can say we're taking that away from you, maybe they will start to think about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I suspect, yeah, you're right, but I don't suspect they'll get anywhere at the moment. While all the bank managers are in the ascendancy.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
it's
know,
front page news on Read All Over the Land.
yeah, I've said to so many people over the years, um, that you watch Liverpool on TV and you look at the colour, you hear the noise, whatever, but until you've actually been inside the stadium when there's a match going on, you really have no idea what it's like to be part of that lot. And I know a lot of people have said to me, and yes, you were right, because you've not been. It looks good on the TV, and as I say, the TV people have got the upper hand. The classic case the other week, we played Brighton in the FA Cup. It was at 8 o'clock on Saturday night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody gave a monkeys about the Brighton fans who were leaving our ground, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and had all that way to go home. And it's happened vice versa. But they just make the fixtures to suit their TV companies, which is wrong. It's the TV companies are covering football matches. It's not a question of doing it the other way around. I know there are certain people in the organisation who think Anfield is just one big TV studio. I know the guy who used to run the catering a few years ago. He was new. He come from catering background, and he was in charge of all the new restaurants and the new main stand. And he genuinely thought he had this big restaurant with a big patch of grass in the back where these guys came out, kicked the ball around once in a while. And it is what he used to say about certain managers like Roy Hodgson, God bless him. You come to Liverpool and some people get it and some people don't get it. I mean, Rafa got it. He got the ethos of the club. Jurgen obviously got it. Shankly started it. Brendan Rodgers hadn't a clue
But even
about
Houllier
what.
had stood on the cop, hadn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you forget, Gerard, stood on the cop years ago, teaching at Allsop School just up the road from here, and he understood what it was all about. But and obviously Kenny, it's in his blood. But in between times, oh dear God. Um, I remember when Stevie G retired, I said to somebody on BBC, Radio 5, I fear for the future of my club because it's not a Liverpool club anymore. We had all we got now, I think, is Curtis Jones, who's a Scouser, and it's you're going to lose track of what Liverpool Football Club is all about.
Well, not if you keep up to date with Read All Over the Land.
No,
But this is a big issue right now, and it is the front page story. Don't forget, Read All Over the Land put on many events as well. We mentioned the Kevin Keegan one earlier. Joey Jones one in Wrexham not too long ago, John. How did that one go?
Excellent, and I must say straight away, the people that turned up, they made the night. They were, I would say, probably 80% of them were Wrexham fans. They were absolutely amazing. Contributed to every single thing that were going on. We had David Fairclough there. We had Stephen Wright, who did a bit of coaching there and knew Joey Jones. Martin Kelly, who was just starting out, who played for Liverpool up until I think it was 2015, somewhere around there. He came along, more or less unannounced. So we had a tremendous turnout, and the people there supported us right to the very end. And yeah, you know, fantastic. And the Hotel Wrexham laid on a superb spread. Nothing was too much trouble for them. And thanks to Peter from Hotel Anfield, because this is another one of his ventures, for helping get the night going. And it was a great success. And I'm not sure of the final figures yet, but we've raised a nice little sum of money for Dementia UK. And Joey Jones is a legend in Wrexham, and so be it. Fair enough. That's how it should be. So it was really a real pleasure just to be there. A real pleasure to be there. And then, of course, we followed that up on last Friday with the golf day at Walton Park. From the football club, we had, again, David Fairclough, he's a golfer. We had Ronnie Whelan, and we had Gary Gillespie. Now, first time I've met Gary Gillespie, comes across as a very, very nice guy. Very nice guy. Yeah, you know, he actually looks still fit enough to go out there and play. But I don't know how many holes he played, but I think he had to go home after about 9, as did Ronnie Whelan. But David Fairclough was still there at the end. Thanks to Neil Brazil, who put the show on, the golf on. I walked around with my team. We didn't win. I don't think we were bottom, but we might have not been too far off. And it was brilliant. We had a couple of people. We had Nigel and Janice over from Derry to play. So yeah, it was a good event. As I say, I got soaked, and then we all had to go into the 19th and dry off. A couple of people had a drink. Then we had a dinner, and we did a few presentations. And David Fairclough thanked everybody for coming along. So brilliant, absolutely superb.
Any other nights planned, John?
Well, I'm looking to do something in the, I'll say the early part of next season. It could be pre-season if possible. But, you know, you've got the World Cup, so people's availability isn't always as it should be. And I still want to do this big one in November. But more about that as time moves on. But yeah,
Brilliant.
two excellent nights. And again, meeting some wonderful people. And that's what these events are all about.
Yeah, and it's all brought together by Red All Over the Land, the Liverpool Fanzine, the longest lasting and the only surviving Liverpool fanzine. George Sephton, the Voice of Anfield, thank you very much for your participation this evening. Great to talk to you again, George. And you've got someone else there.
This new friend.
Yeah, who have we got there? We haven't had an intro with them.
This is Mabel. This is our rescue dog we just got from the RSPCA, who just walked in, looked at me as if to say, "What are you doing up here? You should be in your armchair watching TV." Now she's fully confused about what's going on.
Oh, she doesn't like the
changing. She's the newest addition
routine
to our family.
Excellent.
9 months old. So we've got little treasure here.
Brilliant. Okay, John Pearman, George Sephton, thank you very much. It's Crystal Palace at Anfield on Saturday. Don't forget, you don't spend £1 in the ground unless you agree with the 3 years of coming ticket price rises. Also, if somebody hands you a yellow card on the way into the match, that is something you hold up in the 13th minute. The next edition of Red All Over the Land, what can we expect to see in there, John?
It's going to be a bit of a tribute to Mo and Robbo, but also bringing the season to a close. And what I've decided to do was, from the fanzine point of view, is end it on Sunday, because the 100th minute, well, you know what happened. Virgil van Dijk rose, and that was it. So I thought that was, after all what we've been through, all the lows, there's been a hell of a lot of lows. Let's end on a high.
Thanks, John. Thanks, George. And remember, as always, until next time, you'll never walk alone.